Welcome to Off the Cut, a podcast where we talk about building, making,
and answering all of your questions.
I'm Eric from Spenceley Design Co.
And I'm Zach from Zach Builds. If you have a question that you would like us to answer on air, you can send it to offthecutpodcast@gmail.com.
You can find both of us on YouTube, Instagram, and unfortunately, because we have to keep up with the kids, you can find us on TikTok too.
All right, now let's get into the show.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Off the Cut episode 40, where here in Ohio today is respectfully dedicated to the food of the day, cranberry relish. But for my two friends up in Canada, today is better known as Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. That's right, kids. We've got a guest joining us tonight. Now, if you've been a long time listener of the podcast, you might remember that when we first started this thing, we talked about having a third man. Mm-hmm. Well, this third man never answered our DM because he's substantially more popular than we are. He's a critically acclaimed children's book author, Facebook insider, and lover of the word program. Welcome to the program, Mark from Remarkable Works.
Thank you. I can't stand the word program, by the way.
So is that Vic or Dom that always says program?
He calls the podcast a program, and I just have such a hard time with that.
Well, I mean, be fair, it is a cable access show from the early 90s, so you would say program, right?
I mean, sure, if we want to give it to him.
It's like PBS, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a podcast. I don't know. It's a podcast.
Mark's already pissed off. We've already alienated the guests. We're off to a great start.
No, I need to apologize first and foremost because I legit remember having the conversation. I was like, yeah, for sure. If I just have to show up and record, I'm 100% down to be on this podcast. And then I feel like I never heard anything. And then it was like, I saw that the things keep coming up. I saw the things coming. I'm like, I'm going to get invited. Like, they're going to ask me to be a guest on this show. Like, it has to happen. It has to happen. And then all of a sudden I was like, that's it. I'm inviting myself on and I don't care what has to happen.
And it was a good strategy. It works, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you're always invited.
Okay.
On whenever you want, just like give us like 30 minutes heads up and we'll make it happen.
All right. Deal.
Yeah, it's funny because like in my mind nobody wants to be invited. You know, like
why?
I wouldn't want to be on this podcast.
Yeah. What's the famous quote? Like, I never want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member. That's how I exactly. That's how I go through life. So
okay, I respect that.
I thought the quote was, "I wish I were taller, and that I wish I were a baller."
That is also a famous quote that is very popular.
So my grandmother always used to tell me.
I don't know how tall you are, but I'm over 6 feet. I've literally never wished to be taller.
No,
I don't.
I'm like 6'3", and it's a huge pain in the ass.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And for me, so I have 5 brothers, and we're all over 6 feet except one, and we 90% sure he's adopted.
Yeah.
But so it's been norm to be like able to reach things.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with like other people, they're like, "Damn you and you tall people." I'm like, I am an average height individual. Like it's not my fault that you're vertically challenged, but anyway, I don't know how I got onto that tangent, but we're here now.
It's funny too because you put on work boots and all of a sudden you're 6'4", right?
Mm-hmm,
like I swear to God, every pair of work boots has like a 1 to 2 inch lift to it.
That's because most construction workers are 5'5", so you gotta jack them up somehow, right?
Yeah,
with a little man
but you
syndrome.
know what? Being a small, that's true. That's very true. Being a small construction worker has its advantages too, because there's a lot of times when you're in like, if you're working in an old house like I am, there's low basement ceilings, crawl spaces, all these things.
100%. That's how I got out of going into attics. I was like, I cannot fit into these small spaces. I'm not doing it.
Exactly. Send the short guys.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Hey, but at least people that aren't our height Excuse me. I mean, for anybody not watching the live stream, which is 100% of the people who listen to this podcast, because nobody watches the live stream.
I see the chat going right now. We got some people in there.
I'm eating soup during tonight's podcast, so if you hear clanking, that's the soup.
Or slurping.
Tonight's episode is brought to you by soup. But so, Mark, so people who don't know, give some shameless plugs about yourself. And your program that you do.
It's more of a confused, like, fly by the seat of my pants sort of moment with like a hint of ADHD. So that's kind of where things go. I'm super guilty of like coming up with these bright ideas, and then I action the bright ideas, and then I get into this situation where I don't have time to like follow through and execute on all of them. But at the beginning of this year, so for those of you who don't know me, I am a carpenter by trade. I'm a contractor. I am a dad of 2, husband. I have 5 brothers. I somehow fell into the back end of HGTV Canada. So I like work in the back end of that. I have 2 podcasts. And then I just accidentally became a best-selling author, which has like really consumed my November in a good way. But on top of all of that, I desperately want to be a content creator. That is like my passion. I love video. I love creating, and I'm a very like passionate creator, I would say. And I love to teach. So that's kind of like my little verbal word salad of what Mark does.
So I have to say that I'm not trying to gas you up. I watched your most recent YouTube video. Did you do something different? Like, did you get like a new camera, or did Bryson do something different?
So Bryson has like a really good camera.
Okay.
And I have, so that was like the first, so funny story about that video is I got the idea. So if you haven't seen it, basically the whole concept of the idea was I worked on a TV show throughout the summer and I got completely burnt out. Like we're talking super big depression. Like I don't want to do anything. And, the video, the story there was, I did a whole like speech thing. So that's something I took from Zach, was I actually started writing out like scripts and like things that I wanted to say in my videos. And that way I could like streamline and like make the video make sense kind of thing. So my videos are typically kind of like run and gun vlog style with like a little bit of a build in there, but I don't necessarily like go over the build too much. And I like to have like a hidden message there, that kind of like Full House moment. So for that video in particular, we lost a whole card of footage because I was filming on my camera and Bryson was filming on his camera. So when I went to go like swap them, somehow I like wiped out the whole card. So the video doesn't really make sense from where I see it, and like because we tried to piece it together in the best way that we could. And I posted the video, and the first comment on there, pardon me, is for some guy like, you took your shoulder straps off like 4 times at the end of the video. I'm like, yep, I sure did.
Who pays attention to that stuff?
Right? He's like, yeah, you took your belt off like 5 times or 2 or 3, several times at the end of the video. And he said something else like that didn't make sense or whatever. And I was like, funny story. And I like wrote it out in the comment and just pinned it so that people can see or whatever. But
yeah.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I think it's a lot more streamlined, and it was the first time where I actually like brought someone in to help me film.
So Bryson spent the whole day with you and filmed a video with you? That's awesome.
Yeah, so I've been working on, Bryson and I have been kind of brainstorming this documentary that we want to put together. So it's about like mental health in the trades and like how that is happening right now. And because there's a lot happening there. So we were kind of like brainstorming, and I was like, listen, this would be a really cool opportunity where like we could get together early, and then we'll like shoot some B-roll of us driving, and like we can like shoot some stuff for the doc, but then we could also kind of like incorporate like the video And that's where that ADHD kind of kicks in, because I'm like I have Bryson for the day. I want to like maximize the amount of things that I can get from this poor guy. And yeah, we're just totally like halfway through the drive. He's like, dude, I can't concentrate on what's for the doc and what's for the video. So let's just do one thing. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So yeah, it
felt tight. And like, honestly, like not knowing that story, I would have never known that something like that had happened. I just assumed like it was just a real tight, quick, like honestly, I enjoyed the hell out of the video. I was watching it while I was on the bike today.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's been nice having the time. So like I said, in the summertime I got kind of like overworked. I took August off and the family. We went to Newfoundland.
Nice.
We took all of August and spent some time out there. And then in September, my wife started a new job, so I kind of like stayed home, was in dad mode, and then on that side of stuff, I kind of like built up like a back end of content for like Instagram and stuff. And then we kind of rolled into October, and I was like, you know what? Like, I really, really want to start taking YouTube seriously. So, how do we go about doing this? And I spent down the rabbit hole of like how we actually like take it serious and treat it like a business, even though that you don't really get paid for it as a business in the beginning.
Not yet.
Yes, we were talking about that literally 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to hear more details of that conversation, because it's very, very challenging to prioritize the time it takes to do research, do thumbnails, and do the proper titling, because those three things obviously are what like are gonna like get your video in front of people. Yeah. And I think if I have one talent, it's I'm very good at telling a story. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where like how I take that story and kind of play it into whatever it is that I'm doing is what kind of stresses me out. But I think as you kind of evolve and do things, you get better at that, and then realizing 100%. That it's only for YouTube. Like I'm making YouTube videos. I'm not making like rocket science or anything like that. But the internet is forever though, so you do have to be careful.
Do you ever think about that? That's one thing that weirds me out about having kids is like they're gonna be able to like find all these like goofy videos of me working in the workshop, talking to camera like it's a real person. Like
not goofy though, not goofy. Those things are like your videos are very, very detailed. And Robin and I were like talking. We were watching, and she's like, "I don't even like building, but something about this just like hooks me." And I was like, "I'm telling you, that's what happens. That's the beauty of YouTube." And I don't know. It's my favorite platform, and it has been for a long time.
Yeah,
a long time.
It sucks because I'm like you. It's like my favorite platform. It's where it's the social media that I actually use in my free time. Like I watch like 20 different YouTubers. I watch like all their videos pretty much.
Yep,
I don't go on Instagram really. Like I go on Instagram to see your posts, to see Eric's posts, but like that's really it. But it's the platform that also requires the biggest time commitment.
Oh, yeah.
It's the hardest platform, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and I mean, I guess in a lot of ways it has the biggest payoff too. Yeah. So it's very like it's rewarding in that way, but it's a tough nut to crack, especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to have partnerships that were just Instagram requirements. Pardon me. So that's where the struggle for me is, because I have this like child that I want to raise being YouTube, but then I have these commitments from other, like posts or whatever they are, but they're not as like challenging anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so like, especially with Reels now, like all you need is like 3 or 4 clips. You could do like a slap transition, peel off, and you're done. You could do like 2 clips of me shooting a nail that's not even on that job site, and then like reveal, done, right? And like now it's like you don't even need to be talented. You just need to be stupid, and then boom, you pop off. So for me, it's like Instagram isn't even that fun anymore. It's more of like something I have to do. But then I also have this like really unique opportunity where like a brand is paying me to do, promote their things. So how can I like use that as this kind of selfish drive to like justify the time it takes to make a YouTube video? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's more of those kind of like, I'm going to take this opportunity to make X amount of dollars and I just have to do an Instagram post. Most people would be like, okay, boom, done. It's crossed off my list, on to the next one. Yeah. Whereas I'm kind of like, no, I'm going to overcomplicate this like crazy and make it a YouTube video and explain everything. And then the brand's like, oh my gosh, we weren't expecting all this. Like, thank you so much, but you're being severely underpaid. We don't have the budget for it. I'm like, nah, it's okay. Just take everything. So that's where I struggle right now. It's like, there's being paid, there's doing what you're being paid to do, and then there's kind of going above and beyond selfishly because I want this thing to grow.
Yeah.
That makes any sense.
Well, totally. Like, I think when I first started my YouTube channel, and I already had like a little bit of an Instagram following where I was like making a little bit of money from Instagram. I took every penny I made from like Instagram sponsorships. And just like that was how I bought my camera. That's how I started paying Bryson. Like that's, you kind of reinvest that money. And but I think the difference was I would do the Instagram post. I would get paid for it. And then I would use that to fund the YouTube video that I had been wanting to do for like the past like 3 months or whatever. I wouldn't try to like intertwine the two if I could.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. But a lot of brands will want both, so it's tough sometimes.
I have very few brands that want cross-platform stuff. For me, it seems like they're just locked down to one. But kind of the direction that I've gone with mine is, YouTube is my focus. It's my social media of choice. It's what I enjoy creating. It's what I enjoy watching. So I basically just film these full-length YouTube videos, and then afterwards I go back and I go, okay, I got this 20-minute long YouTube video.
Yeah, how many
clips can I chop this up into to make Instagram and TikTok posts? Like, I have this one that I've got coming out in December. It's a floating nightstand. I think I have 65 different reels that I'm gonna pull from it.
So, but like, how much time does that take you to like, because, so that's the thing that I struggle with is like, I have an idea for, I don't make a 20-minute YouTube video, but let's say I make an 8-minute YouTube video. Okay. That takes probably 2 or 3 good hours of me trying to script things.
Yeah.
And then another 2 or 3 hours to like record everything.
Yeah.
If I don't have a build. If I have a build, then it's obviously a little bit more complicated because you got to like do things and stuff. So from there, once you edit the piece, Eric, are you doing the editing or do you have somebody that helps
I edit
with that?
everything myself.
Holy moly. Okay, so you edit then, and then you kind of watch back, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to use this clip. And do you like have to piece things together to make that shorter form content?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's why. So like this nightstand video, I finished this nightstand 3 to 4 months ago.
That's crazy.
And so I'm so ahead. Like I've got a video coming out in January that I told Zach that I filmed in September of 2021.
What?
Yeah.
So how many videos are you like in the bank?
5 to 10.
5 to 10?
Yeah. He's crazy.
How do you keep the storylines alive? Like how? What do you?
Well, see, people are going to be like, wait, I thought you had this table saw and now you have this old one. I'm like, that is what it is, man.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Good for you. Oh my God.
So I did the game where I was like, because it's what everybody tells you, right? I'm going to make a YouTube video every single week.
Yeah, I don't know.
I did that for a year, and it was the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
Okay.
Awful. Completely unsustainable. And this was at the time where I was literally making $0.
Yeah. Okay.
It took
now
me
you're talking my language.
Yeah, it took me 68 videos for me to make money.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like, oh, you got a $10,000 brand sponsor. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I made like $10 on this video.
Okay.
68 videos for me.
All right.
I would. It'd be interesting. I'd like to go back and do that math. It definitely wasn't 68, but it was probably like 20, 25 or something like that before I started making money. I'm guessing. I wonder. It'd be interesting to go back and see.
Well, the difference is that your videos are actually good, Zach.
Thanks, buddy.
Your videos are good too. Yeah. I don't know. It's refreshing to speak to other individuals who get it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the struggle that I have for me, or the struggle I did have. Like I am very fortunate to when I'm on job sites, I work with unicorns, and like they understand and they don't interrupt, and like they support the camera and stuff. But it is very, very unique. It's not something that people get. Even like my neighbors, when they see me like filming and stuff like that, they're like, this guy, what the fuck? Oh my god, this. And I know I can see it because I can see their head shaking. I can see them like kind of mumbling and stuff. But then it's like, oh hey, like you're on the TV, like you're on a TD ad, like you did the thing. I'm like, yes. And then they're like, are you the guy from the thing? Yes. Like, and it's I'm not bragging by any stretch of the imagination, but then it's like it's almost as if people like people don't make sense of it unless it's validated for them. Is that, if that makes sense? Like I was on an episode of Leave It to Brian, like HGTV. So many text messages. So many. Hey, I just saw you on this. Hey, I just saw you on this. Hey, I'm like, thank you. Yet you are the same people that are like making fun of me when you see me in my garage, like shooting videos and stuff that I like.
Right.
That's how I got those opportunities from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's like for a while you're just a crazy person talking to camera.
Yeah.
And then there's like a light switch, like something happens, and it's like all of a sudden that video then makes it onto a screen where somebody watches it, and you're like, oh, okay, now it's you're no longer crazy. You're like a professional content creator, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's so that the starting that is so hard. Especially if you're doing it in like any sort of public capacity, because you feel like a crazy person just talking to camera like it's a real human.
Yeah, it's and I think it would be impossible. I'm gonna just shout out my wife for a second, because she is like such a huge contributing factor to it. Like there's so many times when you're just like, this is fucking stupid. Sorry for swearing. This is stupid.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I don't see the point in this. Like, no one's going to watch this. I spent, literally 50 hours making this video, and it got like 150 views. Like, this is so stupid.
Been there.
Before. Been there.
Yeah. And then, you get that, like, but, like, why did you start? Or where, like, why, like, what are you comparing yourself to? You're trying, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all those kind of, like, buildups, instead of that kind of, like, I told you so, or maybe now you can use that time to do something else, or blah, 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 blah. Like, I think it's vital to have a support person or, like, a group of people that you can reach out to kind of, like,
100%.
Bounce ideas off of, or even just kind of, like, go to when you need to vent or something.
Yeah.
No, dude,
I've made those calls to Zach like 100 times where I'm literally like, I just need to vent for a hot second because I just can't deal with it. Doesn't make sense.
Like how crappy Instagram is recently.
Instagram's
like,
brutal, man.
Oh yeah, Instagram's horrible lately. It's funny too because Mark and I are both like, both woodworking guys about the same age. We have like similar size followings. We hit those like all those same key demos, so all the time we get the same jobs. So we get to like talk about like how brutal like some of the like the sponsors are and stuff like that. That's always a little fun too.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where it's like, hey, we really like the blah 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 blah, and then I was like, I have a buddy. Hear me out.
Yeah.
He hits the same demo that I do. He has this the boom. So what if we come in, we split it, and then both of us do the thing? And they're like, I'll pitch it. I'll see. Let me see what happens. And then like we got I don't remember what deal it was, TD or something, but it was very coffee where we're like, we reach out and we're kind of like, hey, are you doing this thing with Toyota, or are you doing this thing with whatever? And it was it's been pretty cool. We actually were approached by, am I allowed to talk about this, the show?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And if there's anybody that you feel like you need to air a grievance on or throw under the bus, we can always do it in the after show if you're worried about it, being in public eye.
I don't know. We were approached by like this agency, I guess you could call them, to do this sizzle reel, but I feel like it never really was like streamlined or like communicated like what the expectation was. It was just like, hey, like we really like you guys, we like your dynamic, but you guys need to film this little thing and we're gonna cut this sizzle reel together. So Zach and I must have met, I don't even know how many times, filmed a bunch of different segments that were like us, that were like, one of them was hilarious. It was like a ripoff of The Office, but just kind of like the two of us kind of like bantering back and forth. It was really like, I thought it was hilarious. We send it off. They're like, yeah, no. So then like by the third alteration, I was just like, I don't know if you felt this way, Zach, because I don't think we've ever even talked about it, but I was just like, I can't make time for this anymore. It got to the point where it was like, baby. Well, it wasn't, they weren't paying us. It was more so of like,
we were paying to have Bryson come out and film us. Like we were coming out of pocket.
And there wasn't there wasn't like a thing that they were really telling us either. It was just like, you film a bunch of stuff and then we'll piece it all together. So we're like, okay. So we filmed a bunch of stuff, sent it off, and they're like, no, we don't like this. We don't like this. So we filmed more stuff. They don't like this.
Again,
And then they're like, we just need footage of you guys working together. I'm like, okay, Zach, come over, help me finish the basement, and we'll kind of like banter back and forth and do some whatever. And then sure enough, they come back like, we need like a finished piece. Can you go into somebody else's basement? And I'm like, what the
They wanted us to like they essentially wanted us to film a whole TV show, or like film the front and the back end of a TV show, but not have the middle bit. So we're like, how are we going to fake this? And we like kept going back and forth on it. And I don't know, it was during that time, I think we were both just crazy busy. We didn't it was so hard to like organize days to get together to shoot this stuff. I think it was like coming right out of lockdown. For us, we were locked down forever. Yeah,
so
that
it was like
also another complicating factor.
Coming right out of lockdown, where it was like rules were lifting, then they weren't lifting, and then I think like we got COVID, and then like you guys were traveling, and then there was like a whole bunch of this like back and forth things, and then finally I was just like, I'm not pushing it anymore. If it happens, it happens. If they want to reach out and say, hey, where's this or what's this, then whatever. Or like, hey, this is what we put together. If you can come up with like a little bit of this, then. But there was none of that. They never reached out again. And so I was just like, it is what it is. And I mean, especially working on the show that I did in the summer, like I just think that I don't know if that's the life I want to live. I would much rather make YouTube videos in my basement and just hang it with my family.
The only reason I would want to do a TV show is almost to further my social media stuff. Like I feel like getting on TV can give you a boost to your social media. So like if I could, do a couple of seasons of a TV show, increase the awareness of like my YouTube channel through that. Because at the end of the day, like what's better than doing YouTube and just making exactly what you want to making it on your own schedule, like not having a bunch of other people around you in your ear. Like, I think that creative control is what I think, I think all three of us kind of aspire to, right?
We all crave and chase that like unbounded creative aspect. Like I've got this idea, and how freaking cool is it that I can get paid money to just like mentally vomit out these ideas that I have in my head. But I mean, that's like where most of my builds go. Like a year and a half ago, I was like, what if I took epoxy and literal garbage and made a table out of it? And I got paid to do that. Like, like the entire thing was just a mental construct of like, this seems like a neat idea. But now I can just get it out of my head, get paid for it, and then just move on with my life. Like, that's freaking sweet. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up in like the paid part of it, and they kind of like forget. They're like, they forget how much work actually goes into it, or maybe they just aren't aware of how much work goes into it. But there's this weird narrative that I'm like coming across that like, just because you are a content creator, like you can't be talented in like the craft, or do you know what I'm saying? Or like something along those lines. Like for me with like the whole carpentry thing, it's like there's a critique and a critique and a critique on the skill where I'm like, this work is cleaner than 90% of the contractors that I know, or like 100% of the homeowners that in the house that you live in. I guarantee you that. But you're so hung up on the fact that like I took my suspenders off twice. You know what I mean? Like kind of those things that just because you're like making a cute video, you can't showcase a talent. So, or like your craft or something along those lines.
It's interesting because a lot of the time I get very hung up on that too, especially like showing like the professional work that I do. It's there's always somebody who's got like some little critique like that, and it gets in your head, and you think about it. But then I go out there in the real world, and I'm like, oh no, I'm better than 99% of people doing this.
Yeah,
I'm like
100%.
You didn't tape that drywall correctly, Zach.
It's like, go to any house and take a good hard look at the drywall. It's like, okay, yes, I'm quite good at doing drywall.
Looks like a first grader put it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very interesting to me, especially like as a up and coming, or I don't want to say up and coming, but like a new person to the world of creating YouTube content. Yeah. I think it's almost like I'm at that space where like I don't feel confident enough to say that I'm like a YouTuber, but I also am like, I'm not confident enough to say that I'm a content creator. But then when I meet people from that world, the compliments that I get are kind of like, why do I have that like doubt? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, like when you guys like, okay, so say you're going out to a dinner with like your significant other's friend, and you're meeting their partner for the first time. They're like, hey, what do you do? What's the first thing that comes out of your mouth?
I'm a carpenter.
Yeah, that's what I say too. I say I'm a contractor, I'm a carpenter.
Yeah.
You know,
I always say I'm an engineer, or I might, depending on who it is, truly it really depends on if I want to engage in the conversation with someone. I might be like, oh, I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer, and then, I run a woodworking business on the side.
Oh, okay. Nice. I like that.
People be like, oh, so you make like wooden signs and cornhole boards and stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, but sometimes.
Yeah. That's the other thing is like, so I used to be like so proud to be like, no, I own my own business, and then be like, oh, well, can we hire you? No, like, whoa, like, how does your business make money? I'm like, it just does. I don't know how to explain.
Yeah. Well, I wrote a children's book a little while ago and
see photos.
Yeah. But so that's the thing is like, so I'm also like one of the resident presenters for the Toronto Home Show circuit. So when you're there, you're like this trusted expert. That is what they label you as. And so I'm literally there teaching people like how to use tool safely, how to do certain projects within your home. Like my whole stitch is like, come mess up our stuff before you go home and mess up your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they literally, after my whole, like every single time, it's like, oh, like where do you work out of? Where do you do? I'm like, I'm not for hire. How do you make money?
Yeah.
And then you have to say like, I work on TV shows. I'm like, oh, right. I get it. Which is such a dying industry. But if I was to say, cable television is
the
dying
program.
industry, but
the program
might as well work for radio. But if I was to say like I make YouTube videos, and people are like, oh, what? I just have that feeling,
Excuse me, I thought you were an expert.
An expert, exactly. And that's the problem that I have with this, like, I think people are like, anybody can be a YouTuber, which very well could be true, but there is a level of talent that needs to, there's a whole bucket of talent that needs to be like very full in order for that you to be successful.
Threshold to walk through the door.
I mean, in a lot of ways, like, you're under more criticism and critique than the average carpenter ever would be. Because when you're a carpenter, you go to somebody's house, you hang a door for them. It's like, okay, see you later. Here, the door, you know, it sticks a little bit, but if you just jam your shoulder into it, it's fine. Yeah. If you put something like that up on YouTube, you're going to have 1,000 people telling you how shit you are, right?
You're getting crucified.
Whereas the average homeowner might be like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
Here's your $500. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Right? So it's almost a higher bar if you're doing it publicly. But for some
100%.
reason, I don't think it gets the same level of respect.
Which is so shocking to me because, and I don't know if that self-deprecation comes from like insecurities or wherever that kind of stems from, or maybe it's like it isn't a known profession yet. But I do think that from like a long-term play, if you are going to get into like content creation or like whatever, I'm going to speak now from like where I'm at in terms of age. So like I'm in mid 30s, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a young buck. I'm only getting older. So like all those opportunities, you know what I'm saying? They're going to start to go to like the next generation. Like there's going to be up and comers of people that are better at AI, people that are better at making videos in a shorter period of time. They can throw up all these different things. Right. So I really do. I'm like, I play that in my head. I'm like, okay, from like a longevity standpoint, I'm going to put in the sacrifice, put in the work right now so that in like 10 years, I'm 45, but maybe I still have enough time left in the game. Is this platform even going to be around in 10 to 15 years? So that's where I'm now. I'm kind of like, I'm playing that like long-term game. I'm like, I think YouTube from a long-term standpoint is in the best situation to win. And that's just my own personal opinion.
I agree with that too. And you know what? I think I get hung up on that quite a bit because, you know, like I think we could probably all maybe potentially agree that Instagram is dying right now.
Yeah.
And we've all invested a ton of time into Instagram, and it's like that's kind of sucks. But I think the skills that we developed along the way, creating videos, being able to communicate ideas, all these kind of like meta skills that you might not necessarily even consider skills, are things that you can carry on to any platform. Like if you were like, you really easily could have transitioned out of cable TV and onto YouTube when YouTube first came around, because you already had all those soft skills, like how to talk to camera and stuff like that. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think no matter what the next thing is, like we're going to be in a good position to capitalize on it, essentially. Right.
Yeah. And so what I think from a YouTube, where they're positioned right now, like when you think about it, even like 20 years ago, YouTube was like a thing. It was like being born, and it was like, it was still there. Like people were sharing videos, Charlie bit my finger, all that other stuff, right? Then Facebook came out, and then it was like this like centralized hub, and people were like, oh, no one really cares about YouTube. But if you kind of look at the trajectory, and I'm not an engineer or like any sort of a smart individual, but I would assume that the chart kind of goes like this when you're looking at YouTube, and it just kind of like scales upward. Whereas like Facebook, even Instagram, I think Twitter might make a big comeback now if they kind of like, they could very, with Elon at the helm, they could very much like spike a Vine thing, you know, they could release like a Vine thing, and then all of a sudden these TikTokers start coming over, and there's a whole bunch of things that could happen there. But I think no matter what happens, YouTube is in such a strong position, because you have like, you look at my nephews who are like 10 to 8 to 12 years old kind of thing. If you look at them, they want to be YouTubers.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So they are like aspiring to be. So even in like 15, 20 years from now, you're going to have the nostalgia of YouTube that you'll be able to play up on. So no matter where we live, whether it's a metaverse or wherever, people are going to be able to pull out that. Remember YouTube? You have this, like, people are literally going to be, over the next 5-10 years, taking this into like a career to try to be the next Mr. Beast, to try to be the next, boom, 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 boom. And they're powered by Google now. So it's like, I just think that Instagram kind of sucks because of where they have, where they needed to pull their money from to keep it a free platform.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where YouTube is in a position of, like, they have the dollars. Like, it can be free, it can be paid for, like, it's subscription service. I don't know. I just think, now I'm going to start putting more of my eggs into the YouTube basket, especially with shorts, because I'm sitting on like a plethora of short form content.
Yeah.
And just throw those up and see what happens.
I got my my first. So they're going to start paying you for shorts, but I got a shorts bonus this month.
Fuck you.
Which I didn't even. I thought the shorts were going to be monetized in the new year, but I got an email from YouTube. They're like, well, apparently already, because I got an email from them. They're like, hey, we have a shorts bonus for you. I was like, oh, sweet.
Well, it's because you hit like 75 billion views on shorts.
Yeah, my first like 5 shorts popped off for some weird reason. But
so
it'll be interesting to see.
Low key on vidIQ, I have Zach as like a competitor. And it'll show you. It'll show you like
vidIQ.
Oh,
is it like Social Blade?
Yes. So it's pretty much exactly like Social.
I've
never used Social Blade.
Okay.
Well, Social Blade sucks now. It's
what are the features of Social Blade?
What are the features? You just type in a channel and it's just like, here's your projections. I think there's like a paid thing.
They'll say like how many followers they've gained every day, and blah blah blah. They give you a whole bunch of stats. It's kind of like a nerdy, creepy stats for YouTubers and Instagrammers.
Yeah. So vidIQ is basically like an AI research tool that you can use for YouTube specifically. So let's say if you want to come up with like a thumbnail, you type in the thumbnail that you think, and it'll be like,
you showed me this one.
This before. Sucks. Or like use one of your AI like generated things. So you can click on it and it'll give you like 5 options that they think are better ranked than yours. And then they'll also give you like a bunch of keywords that they think will do well, like 100 of them. So you can kind of like pick and choose. But on that platform, you can put a list of competitors. So usually like you'd find people within your niche that have like the same sort of amount of following, so that you can kind of see like what videos topics are like working for them at that point. Anyways, I have Zach as like a competitor just so that I can kind of like congratulate him when I see, and this fucking guy, like, it's like me, I'm like 25,000, and then like the other person's like maybe 50, 80. Zach's like 2.5 million. Just the graph is like like off the charts, and I'm like, I am so happy for you, but fuck, man, teach me everything you know.
Oh man, it's funny because I'm on the other side of it, where I'm like, this month wasn't as good as last month. I guess I'm just washed up now at this point. So.
And that's a game that I would assume plays on you guys when you get into those numbers, right?
Oh, 100%.
Dude, I have never hit a month like I have this month. I'm at almost 1 million views on regular views this month. Dude, like, so I'll just be transparent.
Man. Yeah.
I'm going to bring in over 5 figures just from YouTube ad revenue this month. And I'm like...
Really? Wow.
Holy snap.
Damn.
Fuck.
I don't think I've had a month that big before.
Dude, I looked at my phone the other day and like, dude, it made me feel sick. Because like,
that's amazing.
I didn't know what to do. I was like,
that's amazing.
What the hell? Because like usually it was like, a couple $100 or whatever a month from YouTube. But I saw this, I was like, what in the world?
So when you're doing your things, you don't have to be as transparent as you, but when you're doing your revenue streams from YouTube, is it mainly like AdSense and then like Amazon affiliates, or like how do you measure
so my
like
Amazon
success?
honestly, like Amazon affiliates for me, like maybe $100 to $200 a month.
Same.
I don't know if it's because it's Canadian, but I haven't put that much time into it. But like, I will get like $12 and it's in gift cards. They'll like send.
Yeah,
I
it was
do
pretty
that.
normal for me until I really started taking off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like 10 to
did-
$20,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
I think a big month for me is like $200 in Amazon affiliates, and then usually it's somewhere between 80 and 100 maybe. It's not big money. It's honestly I just use it for like shop supplies and stuff.
And that's where I'm at with the revenue or like the AdSense right now. So I'll get like $250 a month for
Exactly where I started.
for AdSense.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because you're kind of like, oh, fuck, like this isn't really worth it. It doesn't even cover the cost of like paying for, my editor. So then you get into that realm of like, how do I get sponsors? But you're still early. So that's the other trap that I'm in is like, I don't want to get sponsors too early because then that kills the thing. You know what I mean? Like it's almost expected when you hit a certain thing and people are like happy for you because you deserve it and you've put the work in. But when you're coming out the gate and you're like, this video is brought to you by so-and-so, and, the 4 people that watch it are kind of like, get over yourself already,
Yeah, there's a weird thing that happens. It's like when somebody's big enough, like you expect them to have sponsors on every video. But then when it's a small creator, it's like, you're like, oh, screw you. Like you shouldn't have a sponsor. And it's like this weird, like jealous thing that people do. It's like, you should want the smaller creators to get the sponsorship so that they can make more content, right?
Yep.
Whereas the big creator, it's like they're probably pulling in 100K every month just off AdSense.
Yeah.
Like,
which is absolutely crazy when you think about it.
but yeah.
So one of the things that we've talked about in the past that Zach and I can't get through enough to people is I will tell you, I will beat a dead horse about this. Do not take any YouTube sponsors until you are very consistently taking in a large bucket of views. It is not worth your time.
Yeah.
You're not getting the money. And if you're getting a small number of views on your video and then you start to get some people coming in, but you're hitting them with an ad read now you're going to be making people less likely to want to watch that video in the first place.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because even I've had brand deals request ad reads for YouTube, and I say no. Like I won't even. I'll mention the brand, but and that's the exact it there. It's like if I'm in this relationship for the long haul, and I really think it's detrimental to both brands if we start throwing out ad reads too early. I think it's much more effective to be like, oh, that's Mark and he works with this type of trim versus this video is brought to you by this trim. It's the only trim that I use and blah, blah. And then people are just going to be like, sure, bud, until the next video when we see you with another one,
Like we all know that you guys work with DeWalt. But you don't have just like DeWalt ad all day.
Yeah.
It's just that like the organic placement of the stuff.
Yeah.
And that is way more effective because somebody who grows up watching Zach's videos and is like, okay, I need to buy my first drill. Well, what have they seen Zach use?
Right.
Nothing but DeWalt. They will go buy a DeWalt drill. You don't need an ad read.
Right. And that's one of those relationships too where it's like that was a talk about like organic ad placement. They came to me because they saw that I was already using a bunch of DeWalt stuff. They're like, hey, you want any tools? I was like, yeah, could I have this drill maybe? And they're like, yep, no problem, here you go.
So that's so funny that you say that because it was very similar to me in a sense where the very first giveaway, maybe not the first one, but I won
giveaways. You guys remember those?
Oh baby,
man, back in the day.
Brand asked me to do one of those the other day.
Yeah, but listen, so I won a giveaway.
Oh, okay.
And I gave the tool to someone else, and the brand had never heard of that before. So I was like, listen, I really appreciate it. It's, I'm very humbled and you think, but this person just had their trailer broken into and they are in a much worse situation than I am. So I really do think that it would go a long way if this individual got it. Never met them or before or anything, just saw that it happened. So the brand was like, okay, no problem, boom, sent it out. And then I don't know how through the interwebs that kind of got communicated, but a competitive brand reached out and they were like, hey, we saw that you did this, blah, blah, blah. Very, very, admirable of you. We'd love to like kit you out with like a new kit.
That's cool.
So I'm like, okay, thank you. And
Suckers, I'm going to give that away too.
Well, no. I don't have that big of a heart. I do not have that big of a heart.
Was it Festool?
No. So Festool, I've got a funny story about Festool Canada. But anyways, maybe that's for the after show.
Yeah.
We're air grievances in the after show. Don't you worry.
But so anyways, I met the rep for DeWalt and him and I kicked it off at one of the shows. And so I shouldn't say I've never. I've worked with them for partnerships with Home Depot, but I've never really, I've never taken money from DeWalt in particular.
Yeah,
it's been strictly tool-based. So that relationship is much more of a like place from like a humble place maybe, because it's almost like I feel like I don't deserve this relationship, but I'm also in a position where like if I need a new saw, I can message somebody and say, hey, is there any way that I could get this saw? And they'll be like, yep, sure, no problem. And so being someone that doesn't have a large following in comparison to the much bigger whales that are out there and is still able to have that opportunity, I don't take it lightly. So I try my best to appreciate them, and I think they know that, right? So like you said, they don't have to pay me anything, but I'm still a loyal DeWalt user.
Sure. And
I'm still going to use it, but that also still allows me to use tools that are like Festool, or I have a relationship with Channel Lock. And, there's been situations where like, oh, like we have pliers too, and this, and then it comes into that conversation of like, I understand, but this is more of like a spokesperson deal. So I'm not allowed to talk about DeWalt pliers,
Sure.
But I also use Channel Lock pliers. Those were the pliers that I grew up using. That's why I took that deal in X, Y, and Z. So anyways, with the whole power tool situation, like that's just a deal that's not like, maybe it's strategic, but it's not paid, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, totally. Well, I mean, I have the exact same relationship, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's funny. So I don't know if I've actually talked to you about this, Mark, but I think we are both underutilizing our ability to ask for tools from DeWalt, because I approach.
But you feel bad,
agree.
right?
You feel legitimately bad. I'm like, ooh, could I maybe have this like $200 drill and then maybe I'll put it in front of like thousands of people for you.
That costs them $20 to build.
Yeah, so I approached the rep for DeWalt about this idea that I had for a YouTube video for Christmas. I just want to. My whole thing is I just want to give away a bunch of DeWalt tools.
Yeah.
So I was like, the more tools you give me, the more clickbaity the headline's going to be. I'm like, okay, what do you need? And I haven't totaled it up yet, but we're well into four figures. There's probably like $5,000-$6,000 worth of tools they sent me to just give away in a day.
But that's not that
I'd
much.
Say more. I'd say the tool value is worth it more than that once you start pricing it out after COVID prices.
True.
Like the table saw is like $1,000 alone.
Yeah.
And,
true. So
and
that's a good point.
And like Eric was saying, like it doesn't cost them anything anyways. No. In fact, they would have a line item budget. This goes like, this is just like from like back end of TV knowledge. Like they would have a line item budget where they would be committed without being committed to TV shows for like an upward of $20,000 for a season of a show for tools. Right. Now those are just for like 2 or 3 on-screen talent that they're gonna fucking be stolen after the time the show is done anyways.
Yeah.
Or they take the same $20,000 and they feed that out into micro influencers, and then their sales just skyrocket. So I think from a logistical standpoint, they're sitting in a really good spot. So I don't know. I think.
I was just gonna say it's funny because like I feel legitimately bad every time I send an email. Like, could I bother you for like potentially this tool that I'm gonna use in a new video? And like they're always super cool about it. They're like, yeah, here you go. Like no problem. But then when I went to them with that, I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I've been undervaluing myself here a little bit. So yeah, it was interesting to see. It was a little bit of an eye opener.
It's always funny to me for that relationship because you can tell when you see somebody that's like, okay, they're new to this or whatever, and then I don't want to say abuse, but you see that like their ask is like an ask, where mine is like, hey, so those new batteries that you're getting, do you mind if I get one, even if it has to be on loan, and I am happy to drive to the warehouse that's 2 hours away from my house so that I can pick it up and you don't have to ship it? Those are like more of my asks.
We had Derek from Bad on a couple weeks ago, and he was giving us he was letting us know about some of the asks that he receives on his end, where it's just like, people are just like, hey, I have X amount of followers, give me free pants.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, okay. All right.
Like, how do people think that's going to work?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it does work maybe that's the really crazy thing is maybe that does work with other brands.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, like, I've had it with, like, I've been working with Craig for a bajillion years, and Whitney over there is amazing. But I've been talking to her, like, I would just be like, hey, I'm really sorry that pocket hole thing or, whatever tool that you sent me a year ago, like I dropped it and it broke. I'm really sorry. Is there any way you could send me another one? And she'd be like, yeah.
It's already in the mail. Yeah.
Whatever you want.
I'll overnight it to you.
Yeah, just let me know. But like you feel bad, right? Because like there are these people that you've built up this long-term relationship with, and like you kind of balance that asking for things that you genuinely need versus like taking advantage of a brand, right?
Yep. Yeah, and a brand like Craig is a perfect example because they have been such a strong supporter of like the woodworking community since like day one. Yeah, like since back in the day, like 2016 back in the day. Like I remember talking to Whitney, like I think I might have hit like 1,000 followers or something. Yeah. And she reached out and was like, hey, congratulations, this is so cool. And I think it was like the first brand that ever like even followed me or like watched any of my stuff or like whatever. And I just remember that now it's like, it's just stuck with me. I recommend Craig all the time, and that costs them nothing. It cost them. I know Whitney's husband works for Craig, so they're like very close to the company. But it's like you have a lifelong individual that has like some sort of minute influence on people that come to him for recommendations, and forever I will recommend them. Like because they are good tools.
But does Craig make the best tool?
No, absolutely not.
But do they make good tools? Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially for the 100%. Price point too. They hit a good price point.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's something else I wanted to say. Well, I did. Are we? How are we doing for time there, Eric?
We're
you got the
58 and a half.
Okay. Well, we got 0 listener questions in.
Oh no. Okay, fire them off.
Yeah. Should we do one question to see us into the after show?
Okay.
I'll come back on and we'll do like more things, but we'll do this.
This conversation was great.
So before this, we had with our top tier patrons, we do like a quarterly live thing, and we were talking to one of our patrons, Wes Willard, and he wants to get into content creation, but hasn't really taken that plunge yet.
Yep.
dude, we were having an incredible conversation about he's in like this hybrid between like woodworking and upholstery, and he's noticed that you'll have woodworking channels, but then when it's like, okay, I just bought this cushion, slapped a cushion on, and like, boom, the chair's done.
Yeah.
Versus the people that are like, well, I don't know how to woodwork, but like, I bought this chair, and now here I'm going to go in this detail about how I like upholstered this chair. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, if he could capture both of those things together,
100%.
like you know that, Mark. Nobody in our space does that.
So, funny story. I just did a segment for Marilyn Dennis, which is like our Oprah up here, or our Ellen maybe up here.
Canadian Ellen.
Isn't Jerry Springer Canadian?
Maybe.
I don't know the history of every celebrity and their heritage, but I would assume he is a nice person, so he probably is Canadian.
What about The Rock?
No, he's
I think
Hawaiian.
he's from Miami. Hawaiian. Anyways, I did a segment, and they were like, "Hey, can you do upholstery?" And I was like, "Give me a second. Let me check into my YouTube University and see what courses are available." And there
Click.
are not very many. So I think you're absolutely right.
Good niche.
If the talent is there and you can make it captivating, then I definitely think there is a huge niche for that, because it is a niche, but it's also like a skill set that is slowly becoming extinct. So all those, much like woodworking was dead. Like legit before 2015, there was no woodworkers around ever. And then all of a sudden, a couple of millennials got their first TV or their first garages, and then woodworking became like, I don't want to say cool, but it became a thing again. You know what I mean? Right. It was like this kind of like rejuvenated hobby that really, really took off, in my opinion. But anyways, sorry. To answer your question,
no.
I do think that it is a great opportunity.
Yep. There you go, Wes. You heard it here. But the other thing is, like, let's be real. You know this, Mark. Zach, we talked about this earlier. The vast, overwhelming majority of people who are watching your content have no ambition to ever do what you're doing. They just think that it's satisfying to watch.
Yep. Or they put it on while they're doing other shit. Like they'll put on, they like you, you know what I'm saying? They like the music or they like whatever. And now that's become the new the new sitcom. That has become the new thing.
Yes.
Like, and I know this for a fact. Like I will put on a Peter McKinnon video that I've seen 100 times. But just because I'll put a boom and then the suggested videos pops up, boom, and I'll just push play and let it run through its thing while I'm doing the dishes or cleaning up or tidying or doing whatever.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, I do it all the time. And like I do it all the time. And that's so it's like that's where I was trying to say at the beginning of this is like a lot of my stress and anxiety before, like just like you said, like actually coming up with like a structure for my YouTube videos, it was like, oh, it has to be perfect, it has to be this, I have to be right, everything has to be this, I have to get every single shot. There are things that you can do in post. Like I fucked up on a thing I called a board a post, right, in my video, and I'm like, what is it now? It's just like just throw text up there with an asterisk and then you're done. Before I'd be like, oh my god, I can't use that clip now. I have to go reshoot it because this and like once you get over that stuff.
Shirt.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh man. Or don't even put the asterisks and just let people comment because that's more engagement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you get these into these strategic like plays of the world there. Or I don't know what. Yeah, but
I mean that was the sentiment of the conversation that we were having earlier with our patron Wes, is to boil everything down into two words. It's just start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get out there,
and I commend you guys because you're coming at this. I'll call you guys unicorns. Like you're very, very creative. You're super talented, but you also are very caring individuals. So like the patrons are lucky to have you and be in a space where There's no egos. I know, like Eric, unfortunately, I don't know you as well as I know Zach, but I do get a very good vibe from both you guys, and I know for a fact that like you guys are both gonna crush it no matter what you do. And I do appreciate you guys for bringing me on, because it's been fun. Like, this has been the fastest hour ever.
I know it really has.
You're gonna definitely have to Dom now.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I mean,
Can we
consider it done?
You know what we
right?
need to do? Do you think this would be an absolute shit show
all
if we had
five of
a
us?
5-person podcast?
There's no, you couldn't be able to handle it. There's no way.
Just all
no way.
screaming, vying for the mic. But we could release it on both our channels. It'd be fun.
I think our show is great for what it is, but I also think we married ourselves to like for the gram, like Instagram, and that is a topic that we're kind of like, how do we kind of navigate? And this is something we can talk about, later on or whatever. But the two of them are so close that they have the same brain. Mm-hmm. So it's always 2 versus 1. And then they have inside jokes that I'm just like, I don't enjoy inside jokes, but our dynamic is great and I love them both. So yeah, it's a fun time.
Well, we're getting to the end of the main show. Do you want to go ahead and plug all your socials and your
and the book too,
and your book? Yeah, please.
Yeah, so
we didn't even talk about the book.
I know.
Well, to be continued. Yeah, to be continued.
We'll have a part 2 with
write I would totally be down for that. I wrote a children's book. It got published. It's inspired by our daughter. She likes to build things. She likes princesses, so it's called Build Like a Princess. And it is available on Amazon. Fun story about that is the first day that it came out on my birthday, and it popped off. Like there was a big online rally behind it. We beat out Taylor Swift. We beat out like the Harry Potter scene, like things. Zach bought one.
There we go. I bought a couple actually, because a couple of my buddies just had daughters. I was like, this is a perfect gift for them.
It hits me in the feels when I see things like that. So there was like, it came out and we got sick, so we were all sick on my birthday, and it was kind of this weird, like we canceled all our plans and we just kind of like hung out. So I actually had the time to like watch it do its thing, and it was like so weird. Like the publisher was messaging me and be like, hey, you're this and you're this, and I didn't know what any of it meant. But then I ended up going on to like all books on Amazon. There was like Chandler Bing, Prince Harry, Bono, and then like, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and then Mark Racing. So I was like, what the actual hell is happening right now? And it just goes to show you how much support there is, or there should be, for women in the trades, and like how much we need to rally to help move that statement forward. But anyways, that is the book. It's available on Amazon, Built Like a Princess. And then everywhere else is Remarkable Woodworks. You just find me on the Google machine.
So for everybody listening, we usually tell you like, oh, if you want to support the show, go to Patreon. We're not telling you that this week. I'm going to put a link in the description to Mark's book. And if you want to support the show, go to Amazon, buy Mark's book. Even if you don't have kids, give it to somebody.
Yeah, do what I did. Give it to your buddy's kids. Give it to, I'm sure you got nieces, nephews.
But truly,
so I'm gonna cry.
That we know that'll mean a lot to him, and that's what we ask you guys to do this week. But
let's keep it charting. Let's keep it. I want you in the, I want you top of the charts for a long time.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
But honestly, that totally sums up the content creation game. You have 1 month where you're like, holy smokes, I'm gonna retire, and then the next month you're like, this is it. This is the end. My whole business is done.
And it's funny because like book sales, like you watch it, like you do your views, right? So like my brother is texting me, he's like, you just beat Mariah Carey's book. And I was like, super cool. And then you look like 2 days later and it's like, now you're like nowhere near that realm kind of thing. But yeah, it's the whole synopsis of this is just try not to get caught up in the numbers. Remember why you do the things you do, and just celebrate the little things. Like, and when I say little things, I mean like you had an idea and you had the like just the passion and the ability and the commitment to bring it to life, whether that's a video, a book, a song, it doesn't matter. If you're a creator, that is power, and that is it should be celebrated. So pop a bottle, crack a can of bubbly, do whatever makes you happy, as long as it's ethically appropriate. And just celebrate those small wins for sure.
Words to live by.
I could not say it better myself. So
thank you.
I don't even want to add anything at the end. Everybody, we appreciate you listening, and we will see you either on the after show or on next week's episode. Mark, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.